The other day I decided to look back and decide on what to do for manga reviews. Then I remembered one of the first manga I actually ended up picking up in high school, and I started to wonder, was it actually really good, or was, it just appealing to teenage boys? For those who don't know what I'm talking about, I am talking about High School of the Dead. It's a manga that I have known for years, and like I said, was one of the first ones I ended up picking up around 2013, 2014-ish when I was in high school, and like going from junior to senior and around that time. But for those who do not know what High School of the Dead is about, or like what it is in general, High School of the Dead is set in present-day Japan, beginning as the world is struck by a deadly pandemic that turns humans into zombies, euphemistically referred to by the main characters as them. The story follows a group of high school students and the school's nurse as they deal with the worldwide catastrophic event known as the outbreak. As the cast tries to survive the zombie apocalypse, they must also face additional threats of societal collapse in the forms of dangerous fellow survivors and the possible decay of their own moral codes. Starting from the high school, the students end up escaping into town where they must deal with a corrupt teacher and his students. They check their homes for survivors and end up picking up a little girl and a dog along the way, and that's how it really starts. But the point of the anime and the manga starting is you follow these people at high school and they have to work their way, but you also got to deal with the fact that you're seeing people die left and right and a bunch of other different things. But let me actually sit down and talk about the manga real quick. Just as most modern anime zombie stories start, it all starts on a random day, people thinking that zombies are just crazy people out and about attacking people. Well, one thing leads to another, and this manga ends up showing the true emotions and personalities that come out during catastrophic events like this, from sacrificing classmates just to survive, and how people just throw people to the wind and such. It takes a very realistic approach to the situation. The story follows Takashi Kumaro, your average high school boy who is having to make his way through a school full of his dead former classmates while trying to find his friends and means to survive in this living hell. It starts with him looking outside, taking a break from school. He was getting tired of what was going on in class. They were talking about his ex-girlfriend and former best friend from when he was growing up, and he was out just taking in some breathing, some air on a fire escape that led down to the ground floor, where they see a bunch of teachers approach this guy at the front gate. Well, this guy they try to scare off ended up attacking one of the teachers and biting him on the neck. While the other teachers were checking on him, he ends up turning and biting the other teachers, and that's where it just goes to crap really, really fast in that school. So from the beginning, you follow Takashi and you follow Rei, his childhood friend, as they fight their way to the top to get away from everything, where Rei ends up bringing her boyfriend at the time, and unfortunately things happen to where her boyfriend gets bit while protecting Rei because she falls, and unfortunately he has passed away. And they see the zombification take place and see that it happens really, really fast. Then you also have a bunch of other people pop up. You have Saya and Kota, which Kota's a nerd who ends up actually being a expert in firearms and marksmanship because he's an otaku for that stuff. He really loves gun. You got Saya, who is a prestigious member of the Takagi family, who ends up coming into play later on near the third or fourth volume, but it's very important. She's very knowledgeable and has very good deductive capabilities and is very smart and helps this group get along. And they have Sayako, who ends up being the kendo club captain, where you see her using her sword skills and end up being able to do things and take care of the zombies without any issue. Then you have Shizuka, who's the dumb but funny hot nurse, because they really play up the cleavage and the sex appeal of the characters in this series, and that's just one of the takes that the author does throughout the whole series. But as these people figure out how to get through the school, they see people who were best friends for years toss people aside. They see the cruel humanity that is human nature and see how fast people will throw people aside to just survive, to which karma ends up getting them, and a lot of them end up getting killed right away immediately. Even though they had 2 seconds to spare, those 2 seconds weren't enough, and it's just a bloodbath. And I will say this book and series is very good when it comes to the gore, when it comes to the reality of like people getting their flesh ripped off, people's guts being ripped out, people being shot. Being that in a book and like in a manga is fantastic, and the author did a very good job of it. And as these kids go along, they try to reach out to the family members, they try to use cell phone service, but the cell phone lines are taken up. People all over Japan obviously are full and like tying up emergency lines, and they just collapse. Then Rei was able to call her father real quick, but unfortunately it was kind of a one-way call where they couldn't hear the person calling, which was actually Takashi. But Rei's father said just get to the house, they'll do what they can, and it kind of goes from there. One thing I do really like what this manga does, it takes time to dive into the psyche of these characters, of these teenagers, as the world falls apart. You see Takashi dealing with Rei on how they used to like have feelings for each other, when in reality Takashi always had feelings for Rei, but he had to kill her boyfriend because he was turning into a zombie about to kill her. Then Rei was taking her anger out on Takashi, and he's like, all right, well, I'm gonna go. But then she gets scared because she doesn't want to be alone. Then you have Saya dealing with Konoha, how he was a nerd, but he ends up actually stepping up and saving her, to which she ends up having, you know, respect for Kota. And just, you see how it dives into it. Then even with the nurse, you see how she's like a ditz and all this stuff, and then that's when Psycho comes out of nowhere to save her. Unfortunately, the students that were protecting her ended up passing, and it was kind of like, well, you're a ditzy nurse, but you're really good when it comes to medical and saving, you know, people's lives as best as you can. Then Psycho has these back past that she has to deal with that's running over her, and how she couldn't even save her like classmates. So is she worthy to be left alive? You see this world building around these characters, and taking that deep dive and building that up so you get attached to them fast is a very fantastic way of how to approach a manga like this. Something that, you know, people might get turned off by how much etchiness or how they draw the characters, but in reality there's actually nice world being built around them, and that, you know, they're able to make you attached to these characters because of how well they're building up these people. This manga nowadays is kind of a pinnacle point. A lot of people refer to this and tend to end up reading it when they get into manga, oddly enough. And it's one of those things that has a cultural phenomenon on the world, especially when it comes to anime. But let me just show you this scene right here.
それでセーフティーが外れる。その後は右側に突き出ている作動桿を引く。それで撃てる。
So as you can see, when this anime and manga come out, but specifically the manga, it did take the world by storm. It really brought the zombies genre forward in the manga world and in the anime world. While yes, at the time, zombie subjects were hot because this ended up coming out in 2006, which is like riding the tailcoats of like the Dawn of the Dead era, which came out in 2004. So this ran from 2006 to 2013 as a manga series, and then the author took a break to recover his health, and then unfortunately the author passed away in 2017. This author also took a break from High School of the Dead to work on Triage X, which has 20 plus volumes, which is a fantastic manga and kind of also has the zombie aspect later on in it, but you can tell from the character design, from how well they're drawn, how their sex appeal is, from the gun design to the blood to the gore to the actual good dialogue that is in the series, it still holds up. This series is oddly really good, and while yes, fanboys will be all over it, and you know, it really does appeal to the male genre more than it would females, overall it's still a very solid story. And while unfortunately we will never get to finish this story, it goes to volume 7, and that like goes way past the anime. There's enough for a season 2, but they'll probably never ever do it, considering it's never going to get picked up. I really do think that this still holds up after over a decade later, going on 12 years. This series is still fantastic. This is able to really hold its own still to today's standards. And I really do think that it is kind of one of those things that newer manga readers will end up enjoying. They will probably navigate their way to it. Now, if you want to buy it physically, it's a little expensive, especially if you like want the first edition ones when they first came out. They'll probably range you about $250. You might be able to find them here and there. I found them all over the place as of late, but for the longest time, it was hard to find the physical volumes. But it is available to read online. Now, like I showed you that anime scene where Takashi was shooting his rifle on top of Rei, I just want to say this did impact anime. A lot of anime kind of upped its game once High School of the Dead came out, and really kind of leaned into how they were doing it, especially like the zombie genre. The zombie genre was taken up and kind of like kicking off from there, as well as when Triage X was coming out from the same creator. It kind of upped the game when it comes to the manga and anime world. You need to really pay respects to High School of the Dead. While, don't get me wrong, it doesn't appeal to everyone. It is not for everyone. But if you like action, well-put story with some sex appeal, okay, a lot of sex appeal, I'm not going to downplay it. There's a lot in there, a lot of horniness that appeals to people, but very good gore, especially if you want some horror stuff. They really do well in giving into these people, making them debate on their moral high grounds, saying, I don't want to have to kill, you know, Ray's boyfriend, but unfortunately he's about to turn in and kill her. Well, I gotta kill him. All right, there's a bunch of classmates that I really like and care about. Well, I gotta kill them now because they're trying to kill me. And it's basically putting their morals to the test and seeing them break down slowly but surely to enable them to survive, and them having the hope of coming across their family, coming across loved ones, while just trying to survive. And this series does a very good job in keeping that alive and portraying that across the board. So let me know if you guys ended up reading High School of the Dead at some point. It's honestly a really interesting story, and I mean, for 7 volumes, it's a good quick read too. So I really recommend you pick it up and give it a try, especially in the year 2025. If you have not read it at all, please pick it up and give it a try. I think you guys would enjoy it. So let me know what you guys think. I love you all. I appreciate you all, and I will see you all next time. Bye-bye.